Let's continue this discussion on Khomotso Phahlane's testimony. We are now joined by former Interpol ambassador and security strategist, Andy Mashaile, as well as the former Western Cape Police Commissioner, Dr Lennit Max. Remember to send us your comments and questions on WhatsApp to 072 110 5584, or you can give us a call on 010-596010. All right. A very good evening to you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your patience, also for joining us this evening as we reflect on today's testimony. Dr Mashaile, perhaps let's start with you. We know that given Khomotso Phahlane's very long-standing association with law enforcement, he started his testimony earlier today seemingly wanting to put his labor issues at the fore. What was your take as him, as a witness coming in from that point of a strategy?
Okay. Good evening to you, and compliments to yourself and my wonderful brother, Lennit, that other side. I realized, Katleho, that General Phahlane would do anything that would create a maximum advantage for him, because if he doesn't use this platform effectively, one, to clear his name, two, to get justice, three, to get those who persecuted him in his own language behind bars, and four, to indicate to South Africans that General Ntantam Kwana's allegations have substance, and I am in possession of that substance given my own situation. Hence, he brought all those labor issues into the mix. Reason why he would bring those issues into the mix would talk about, or would be addressing, systemic contamination as well as interference in that system, further contaminating it from outside of the process. And from outside of the process, before you ask me, let me respond. A contaminant would be a man called Paul O'Sullivan. So General Phahlane drew that map so that we can, you and I can put timelines and look at date stamps and look at the roadmap. And his strategic outcome, or his strategic tactical move, would be to do what you call gaming out the outcomes. And gaming out the outcomes begins with what he has done. He has strategically forced the evidence leader into a capitulation mood, where the SC was put under fire from the responses of General Phahlane. You and I saw the heated exchange of firework and firepower that comes from General Phahlane, and the exchange with the SC and the chairperson coming in to intervene and to cool the heads down. So what I made of it is he showed up there very well prepared, with a very powerful arsenal or toolbox of strategy and tactics.
Dr. Max, do you agree with this? I mean, with the ad hoc committee earlier saying that this is not a Labour platform, and that the evidence that he was leading earlier in the day was quite irrelevant. And he and Dr. Mashaile is saying that that was a gaming out the outcomes, ensuring that they take his side when it comes to his Labour dismissal issue.
One must understand that my observation is that General Phahlane is very hurt. Is very aggrieved. And as he mentioned in the beginning, that he is not a fly-by-night general. He went through the ranks, and he is not happy that he ended his career as a police officer in the manner it happened. And for that reason, I agree with my colleague that he made use now of the opportunity, because he was being labeled as a corrupt officer, and he is trying now to give the panel or the committee, as well as the South Africans who watched this interview and the hearing, his side of the story, because he was not heard then. What I also agree with him is that the appointment of an acting national commissioner is the prerogative of the president of this country in terms of Section 207. And if he or anyone wants him to vacate that position, and it must only come from the president and not from Mbalula. So that is a legal, technical irregularity, which he actually also maybe in his court application to the appeals, labor appeals court, maybe he addressed it there. On the other hand, is that interference in the South African police service didn't start then. It was already in place when I was also a provincial commissioner. And it is clear that there is a golden thread right through with regards to the modus operandi of people who wants to you to be removed. And that is that they will sell stories to the media and use the media to label you in order to get public sympathy. So once and so that the media also put pressure, or the public also put pressure on with regards to your removal. So yes, it's a dirty game. It's very unfortunate, and it's for that reason that I am glad that there is a GNU, a government national unity, so that one party doesn't have, unbridled powers. And with the GNU, it appears to be that there is checks and balances, and so that we can avoid repetition of what happened before and currently, and make it make clear and make and or ensure that we go forward uh, on a clean slate, and there needs a lot to be done to address the shortcomings in the South African police service.
Certainly. Dr. Mashaile, I mean, Dr. Max makes reference to something that was mentioned by the General, and this is with regards to the appointment as well as the removal of an acting National Police Commissioner. And he says that his suspension was verbal, and that the president that appointed him was not the one that removed him. And of course, saying there that it was the former Minister of Police, Fikile Mbalula, that had suspended him. He obviously then describes the suspension as unlawful and politically motivated. How do you think police reforms need to be approached in order to prevent the sort of abuse when it comes to disciplinary processes for political ends?
Number one, in the police, you have what we call the LSM, Leadership Succession Mafia. There are a gang, or there are gangs of various individuals who would gang up on Dr. Max, or gang up against you when you are supposed to move from the brigadier level, or from the colonel level to the brigadier, or from the lieutenant colonel to brigadier to major general. That mafia will concoct things, will concoct stories, will sell stories to the media, will actually go to an extent of arresting an individual. I know of one brigadier, Brigadier Ndebele, who was arrested, a female, arrested by 16 males, and that woman lived alone in her house as per the story. And that woman called a few people to say, I am a police woman. It's a Sunday. I can be arrested at work. I'm afraid to open my doors to these men who are in my yard. And we are told from the stories and from the individual that there had been an vacancies for a major general post somewhere in Gauteng. And when that arrest happened, it happened so as to disqualify her, to dislodge her from applying for that particular person, because there would be a criminal matter that's on your head or a cloud on your head. So, Katlego, when you look at all of these things, you realize that when it comes to the leadership succession, there are people with vested interest in that process, and they will ensure that they go after Dr. Max, or they go after Brigadier Ndebele, or they go after this or that individual. And we have, in order to deal with this kind of a problem, we have a responsibility to ensure that those who sit on panels, those who shortlist names, those who are involved in that process of the interviews, get proper clearance, get proper vetting, and you continuously check in on their background so that you can then be able to give all the individuals an equal opportunity, as opposed to a mafia, a leadership succession mafia that would sit and plot Phahlane wherever he is, or plot Dr. Max wherever he is, simply because Lennit Max, as I know him, he's a former no-nonsense police officer. People in the Western Cape know him, and we know him up here in Gauteng, those who have been following him and have had dealings. So when you have people like Dr. Max in the process, you are going to be stepping on other people's interests, and they will make sure that they deal with you, either through arrest or through propaganda, destructive propaganda. And we definitely need to do what I advise. Make sure that people are vetted, check in on their backgrounds, take their scores, visit those interviews by surprise, being an oversight body that comprises of senior officials from National Head Office, so that you are able to cut down on the supply lines of the mafia in the process of employment.
Should certainly. Dr. Max, maybe just to close it off, Dr. Mashaile mentioned earlier that systemic contamination, referring to Paul O'Sullivan, and we heard there in the testimony the general talking about a well-decorated group in describing IDEC, the rogue unit, as according to Mkhwanazi. These institutional weaknesses, how do you think ultimately they can be addressed?
Yeah, just to add to your previous question, what needs to be done to rectify and to get rid of the rot in the South African Police Service, is that we have to look at the Constitution. The Constitution currently gives a blanket right to the President to appoint a National Commissioner of Police as well as National Director of Prosecutions. Although there were interviews, the panel recommended that there's no one fit for the position, and the President appointed somebody of his choice. So to rectify that, we need to amend the Constitution. In other words, that the person who's going to be appointed should not be loyal to an individual like a minister who make the recommendation to the President. That person must be responsible and accountable and serve the people of South Africa. And you can only ensure that via a proper parliamentary committee interview with recommendations. On the other hand, is as far as O'Sullivan is concerned, is that according to my view, respective view, it equates like a criminal act because he went too far. And what General Phahlane quoted out of O'Sullivan's book, where he admitted that he had contacts in IPID, SAPS, and the National Prosecuting Authority. No, that is not acceptable.
Certainly not. Unfortunately, Dr. Max, that's all the time we have for, unfortunately. Sorry to interject there, but thank you, gentlemen. I'm sure we're going to expand more on this conversation, particularly on the testimony of General Phahlane, as he will be returning to the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee. Thank you for your time and your insights. That was the former Interpol ambassador and security strategist, Andy Mashaile, as well as the former Western Cape Police Commissioner, Dr. Lennit Max.